Hey there, friends. Long time no see. I am here today to basically do a recap of the 2024 low carb cruise that we got back home from about 10 days ago. The week after was so jam packed, so full of catching up with work, with laundry, with just being home and getting back into real life that I've waited intentionally to do this video because number one, I didn't have time. And number two, I knew I was doing a panel interview this morning with Beyond Bariatric again. And I figured, hey, I'm already going to have my hair and makeup done, so why do it twice? Let's jump in. If you've been on my channel for a while, you know how much I fell in love with the low carb cruise last year. It was such an amazing week. We saw so many people. We met people who were stars in the low carb sphere, essentially. We got to kind of mingle with them and chit chat and meet other people. Now, this year, being my first year on the committee, what a completely different and amazing experience I had on the 2024 low carb cruise. So, number one, let me start off by saying this event is no joke. Like, there are a lot of moving parts, there is a lot of work that goes into it, but I would not change the fact that I was invited to be on the committee for anything, because the experience I had this year compared to last year, granted, a little bit different roles, but it was absolutely incredible. Getting to be a little behind the scenes on things and helping with the planning of the event and the meet and greet beforehand, that before we even get on the ship, was just so much fun. And I am bringing in, what I experienced my very first low carb cruise and what I would have liked to have seen happen if there were any changes, anything that could be made better. And it was just the overall experience of being a part of something that was so well received and that people thoroughly enjoyed. Not to mention an amazing cruise with fantastic stops, even though it was humid as could be, and a lineup of presenters, experts, and also being able to share my own story. Wow. It was just, bar none, one of the best things I've done. So we did things a little bit differently this year as opposed to years past, where we didn't do like a pre-cruise dinner. We opted to do a meet and greet and registration the night before we went down to the port to get on the ship. And I think that was so much fun. It was a great opportunity for people to kind of mingle, see friends from cruises past, get their registration items. Keto Brick was unbelievably generous in the amount of product that they sent to us so that we could have a Keto Brick sampling table at the meet and greet. We also had some charcuterie trays that were super fun because they had things in the shape of a heart. And it was just a nice overall laid back, easygoing experience for people to come in. We had our backdrop set up so that people could do photos. We had props there that they could utilize. Creed's apparently coming in to say hi. And just a really cool opportunity to hang out with people, get to know new people, and say hi to your low carb cruise committee that you've been seeing so frequently from, the past year, and getting to actually meet them face to face and say hello and what you were most looking forward to on the 2024 low carb cruise. Friday morning was the day. We were able to all meet down in the hotel lobby to get on our shuttles that we were assigned to. We had 4 different buses that transported people from the hotel in Orlando down to Port Canaveral for us to be able to get on the ship, which was the Adventure of the Seas this year. And of course, things went beautifully. No hiccups on my bus. When we got there, the entry into the port, the check-in process, just so unbelievably easy and streamlined. I love it. Like, I went on my very first cruise probably 20 years ago, and it was just, I remember a lot of lines, a lot of waiting, a lot of chaos, and things are so much better now. So we appreciate that for sure. So we all just kind of hung out and waited to get on the ship. And once we were on there, you have to wait to get to your stateroom, your cabin, because they don't open the doors for those until 1 p.m. We were on the ship, I think, by 11 a.m. But being on the committee, we obviously had things that we had to do in order to get meetings and make sure that we were good to go for after dinner to be able to set up for the conferences the following day. So day one on the ship, most people will go to the Windjammer to get something to eat because we usually get on there right around lunchtime. We did that last year and avoided the Windjammer like the plague this year just because it gets so busy up there. I mean, they're pretty good about moving people through and they clean up the messes on the tables very, very quickly. But we just didn't want to have to deal with that this year. So we decided to not head up there. And instead, we went to the gym. The very first thing that we did on board was go get our workout in. It was our lower body workout. My husband had apparently taken his workout clothes out of the bag that we took on board with us and packed them in a suitcase. So he was there working out in a tropical shirt, cargo shorts, and sandals. Don't tell me that you can't work out, whatever situation it is, because this man did it in full-on vacation garb. Shortly after our workout concluded, we had maybe about 15 minutes before the rooms opened up. So we headed down to our level and we were able to get into our cabin, which was just a standard balcony cabin. I am obsessed with balconies now. I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to do a cruise without a balcony anymore because it's just really fun to be able to go outside right from your room and see what's happening and all of the stars and the ocean and just the beauty that you're surrounded in that entire week. So that was pretty fun. But we got in the cabin. Of course, we waited about an hour and a half to 2 hours to get our luggage. I am that person that as soon as we are in the cabin and we've got our bags, I unpack. I put everything where it needs to go. I hang up all of our clothes. If anything needs to be de-wrinkled, that's the time that I can do it before I hang it in the closet. Use the drawers that we've got, get the bathroom set up. Like, I want to be comfortable and feel as much at home as possible as I can while I'm on vacation and not be digging through things nonstop trying to find what it is that I'm looking for. I will tell you, buying the magnet hooks that you put on the wall there in your room, game changer. I am buying so many more of those next year because I used them to hang up our hats, our lanyards, sunglasses, anything that had a handle on it got hung up on those hooks on the wall because then they were out of the way. We weren't tripping over them. We weren't worrying about them, getting shoved under something and potentially losing them. It was ideal. I'm bringing different sizes next year because some of my bags were a little bit heavy and the magnets would go down the wall and just kind of set on the couch, but it's okay because they were up and they were out of the way. And that is a must have for any cruise that you go on. I will post links so that you guys have those. After the committee met with our event planner on board, who was just an absolute dream to work with. She was super helpful and got us everything that we needed. We went to dinner. As I tend to do on cruises, I overdosed on escargot as much as I can. Every time there was escargot on the menu, I ordered at least 2 of them, and I had to let them know, hey, go ahead and bring them at the same time because, yeah, I that's just me. Yeah, I have no shame when it comes to escargot and eating as much of it as I possibly can. So I tried to get photos of my food on the ship, but honestly, that was one of the last things on my mind this cruise, because it was just, I was living in the moment. I was having a great time. We were having amazing conversation at our dinner table. And so I don't have as many photos of my food this year as I did last year, but here's an idea of some of the things that I ate while we were on board. I didn't always ask for things to be removed from my plate, because I did learn that it took longer for us to get our food, or for me to get my food, if I had asked them to not put any sides on it or anything like that. So if it wasn't going to be terribly bothersome to me, I just ate around it and left what was left on the plate and didn't worry about it. Like, having a potato and broccoli on my plate was not going to contaminate my steak to the point that it was inedible. So I just kind of went with it, and it was okay. So after dinner, first night on the ship, we, as the committee and our volunteers, went down to the conference center where we got everything set up, because day 2 of the cruise was day 1 of our seminars. So we had about 4 hours to get everything ready to go for presentations to start at 8:30 a.m. the following day. We had an incredible group of volunteers on the 2024 low carb cruise. I cannot thank them for all of their efforts. Even people who weren't actually volunteers came down. We had presenters, we had doctors' wives, we had so many people come to help that I would not have been able to get my decorating done in the time that I did had I not had all of these individuals that had reached out and volunteered to assist with the setup. So I am eternally grateful for that, so that I wasn't there fluffing up paper decorations until 11 p.m. the night that we got on the cruise. But we had our volunteers that we had set up that filled our swag bags, and those turned out so wonderful. I mean, we had so many, again, amazing, generous swag sponsors. We had Egg Life Foods. I know I'm going to forget people. I'm sorry. We had Paleo Valley that provided meat sticks. We had the Good Chocolate Company that sent samples of their new coffee chocolates. We had Salty and Keto Chow, which were actually a diamond sponsor for the low carb cruise. Again, love them. We had Element provide sample packs of their product. We had Redmond's Real Salt send us the little pocket shakers, which I love. And everybody had them out on their tables. Every table that I went to visit, there was little pocket shakers at the table. So that was nice to see that they got use out of those right off the bat. Egg Life also sent coupons, which was awesome. Again, I'm telling you, I'm having total brain farts as far as all the, because we had so much swag come through. Oh, Joburg Meats, they do biltong, and they were so excited about collaborating with the low carb cruise. They made a miracle happen. They shipped out 300 bags of biltong. I mean, we're talking over $3,000 of product. Full-size bags of biltong for us to put in our attendees' swag bags. And they had it to our address in Florida in 2 days. Like, they made it happen, Cap, and it was absolutely amazing. And the product, I had never been familiar with biltong before this, was so delicious. The peri peri and the pepper were my favorites. They were a little bit spicier, had kind of a little bit of a kick to them, but the texture was just amazing. So that's a company we will definitely be supporting in the future and ordering things from, because they went above and beyond anything we could have hoped for from any sort of sponsor. 2 other swag sponsors that we had on the ship were Keto Delights Lockhart. She's based out of Texas, and she has an Instagram page. It's a bakery. She sent us little pecan sandies and candied cinnamon pecans, which were, keto, for people to try. My husband is obsessed with her pecans because that's his favorite nut anyway. And then she made them even yummier with the sweetener and the cinnamon on them, so he was hooked. We also had Jonathan Shane, who was, in addition, a speaker on the cruise, who provided his pre-workout as well as his recovery drinks as samples for each of our guests to have in their swag bag. And a lot of those were being used during excursions and things like that, especially the recovery, because when we were on the islands, we were so hot and so sweaty because the humidity was just bonkers that week. But those products came in handy to have so that we were able to, get back some of the electrolytes, get back some of the other minerals that we may have lost out on when we sweated our faces off. And then last but not least was Audacious Nutrition, which is Sheila D'Agostino's company. And it was her new products of her ketone infused coffee and tea. Not only did she have the swag items for us, but she also had samples to set out for people of those products and her ketones. So people were able to take some of those and try them on the ship as well to see how they liked the product overall. And she was also one of our presenters on the cruise this year. So we had very generous speakers as well as other swag sponsors that provided amazing items to our attendees. Day one of our seminars started off with a freaking bang. I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say how the first speaker we had set the tone for the entire seminar. It was incredible. Joe and Rachel started us off. They were our MCs and they also presented. So they got everybody hyped up. And when Jessica Reynolds took hold of that microphone, there was dead silence in the room because we all just sat there and watched and listened and absorbed. And there was a preach and a hallelujah that came out of me more than once for the things that she was speaking about, but she nailed it with her presentation. She talked about strongholds and how we refer so much to addictions and food addiction and sugar addiction, and people cling on to that identity of being an addict. And I'm not gonna lie, I used to be in that boat. I am a recovering sugar addict. I am a recovering food addict. I had an eating disorder. Yes, yes, and yes. But that is not who I am. If I identify as an addict, that is who I become. And it is always there, right here in the back of my mind that I could go ahead and relapse because I'm an addict. No, but I do have strongholds. There are certain things that had strongholds on me. And when I did the very uncomfortable but extremely necessary work to go through and dig down and face my demons and my past trauma, then everything changed. That's the type of thing that needs to be done. You need to uncover what your strongholds are as opposed to clinging to this identity of being an addict. Dr. Brian Lenskis was our next speaker, and his topic was one I was very excited to listen to because he was discussing sleep and stress and how they affect our lives. I can tell you with my coaching practice, I have more than one female who has significant issues with their sleep. They have ridiculously stressful lifestyles, jobs, families, you name it, they got it. So I was very excited to listen to him speak on this topic to be able to share information with my clients and get the word out about how impactful poor sleep and chronic stress in our lives negatively impact our health, and that we need to focus on really getting ourselves prepared for nightly sleep. Start turning off those tablets, turn off the TV, stop, scrolling in bed, do better sleep hygiene in order to obtain a better night's sleep every single night, as opposed to tossing and turning, waking up after an hour or two, and just getting garbage quality sleep. Same thing goes with stress. We need to learn how to cope with the stressors in our lives, because stress isn't ever going to go away. It's just how we respond to it. And I say respond, not react. The next presenter who came up was my former coach and my mentor, Bronson Dant. And what he discussed was principles over protocols. That the power to change and the direction that your life will take lies within you. That you need to focus on what's the overall that you're hoping for. What is the principle as opposed to the path that you take to get there? What is it that you are striving to achieve? And what steps are you going to take to make that happen? Because it's not going to be the same for everybody, number one. And number two, your path is definitely going to change along the way. Do I eat the same today that I did 4 years ago? No. I certainly don't eat the same I did 5 years ago when I was on that standard American diet. But I went from standard American diet to keto with all the keto products and all the cheats that really helped me to get further along on a ketogenic diet, to then going more clean keto, to then going more towards carnivore, to then leading me back to where I am now, which, if you want to put a label on it, I guess you can say is a ketovore, because I eat primarily animal-based, but I still enjoy natural sweeteners and heavy whipping cream in my coffee. I will allow myself to indulge every now and then with keto treats. You guys know that I bake in the winter, the holiday season, using almond flour and coconut flour, which I face the repercussions of doing that and eating those things, because the almond flour doesn't necessarily love me. But again, that's where I am at 4 years into this journey. That doesn't mean that that's going to work for somebody else who's just starting, or someone else who's been on it for 10 years and is a diehard carnivore. There is no perfect way for any one person to go about this process. You have to figure it out and date the protocols while marrying the principle. The next speaker up was me, yours truly. I had 15 minutes to give my testimony and a glimpse. I say the Cliff's Notes version of my story because it was very, very narrowed down. It was very, very fast, but I managed to get the whole story in under my 15-minute period. I think I had like 40 seconds left by the time I had finished and said my last thing that I needed to say, and we broke for lunch. But what an incredible experience it was to get up in front of an audience for my first time to share my story and do any sort of a live speaking engagement with 200 plus people in the audience. And the response I got from them, the people who came up to me after the fact, and even the questions I received during the Q&A after the speakers had all gone, it blew me away. I had no idea how much my story would resonate with people. I had no clue that I would have people who didn't know me come up and say how impactful what I said, what I shared, and the transparency that I offered was going to be, how it was going to be for them. I had people confide in me about different things in their lives, and I loved every single second of it. And getting the reaction, the response that I did has told me that I need to continue on with sharing my story, and that even if it helps just one more person get out of the same path, the same ditches I was in, it's absolutely worth it. And you know what? You are worth it. You're absolutely worth fighting for your best self. After we broke for lunch and came back for the afternoon sessions, Dominic D'Agostino started us off on that one. And his topic was biomarker tracking for metabolic or cardiometabolic health, something like that. And as sciencey as that sounds, he dumbed it down so well for the lay people that were in the audience, me included. He had great slides and had very, very simple explanations with regards to what he was discussing for that particular subject. Then Asking Her Cindy was our final speaker for the day. And of course, she brought humor to the end of the day. Her whole thing was lighten up. We have the ability to be optimistic and light about our journeys and what we are hoping to accomplish as we go through this. She shared a bit of her story as well as her sister's story, and just made it comfortable to be able to open up and talk about things. Just because you have some sort of you're morbidly obese, you've got metabolic sickness, you've got other, autoimmune issues, you've got this problem, you've got that problem, and largely regarding your weight and or your overall metabolic health, you can still live life. You can absolutely reverse those problems, and you can make it fun. It doesn't have to be arduous. It does not have to be tough. You don't have to cry every single day because you can't eat a freaking candy bar. Lighten up. Live your best life. The end of day 2 on the ship was our formal night number 1. And y'all know how much I love getting dressed up and fancy with my husband. And I wore the dress, guys. I wore the red dress, the off-the-shoulder red dress that I had purchased for a work Christmas party for December of 2022 that I took with me on the low-carb cruise last year in 23. It did not fit. It would not zip up. Thank goodness I had brought 2 other dresses as backups. And I freaking rocked that dress this year. It was very exciting and I felt good. I felt confident. My husband looked amazing in his brand new suit because he has dropped so much weight since January and toned up so much with going and doing strength training with me that he went down 2 freaking suit sizes since June of 23. This man is rocking it, and I could not be more proud of him. I actually have a funny story later on. We'll get to that when we get to Coco K review. The next day was day 2 of our conference, and it was started out by Dr. Donald Vega from Costa Rica, and he basically went over, success is right there. And he gave us 10 different stories from patients of his that have had amazing success following a ketogenic diet, doing exercises, lifting heavy things, and basically putting themselves on the path that they need to be on in order to be the best selves they can be. Next up is one of my personal favorites, and that is Dr. Tony Hampton. And the title of his presentation was kind of funny and controversial because it said, is it time for the low carb community to start embracing fruit again? Ooh. I'm not even going to tell you what it was about. I want you to watch the video and see for yourselves. Are you intrigued? Coach Natalie Grasso was our third speaker for that day, and she talked about building your body, building your life, and how to live the best life you can live over the age of 40. And it was primarily geared towards the ladies because she really got into the importance of muscle mass, of lean body mass in women over 40 because of how quickly we lose it once we hit the age of 40. I wish I would have started strength training well before the age of 47, but I didn't because, cardio is everything. And I was a cardio queen and burn, baby, burn, because that's the only way that you're going to lose weight and get skinny, right? Yeah, no, I've done so much better on a strength training program, building muscle. My fat is melting off of me again. I am getting this amazing body comp happening. Do I still have hanging skin? Unfortunately, yes. And it's actually getting worse as I'm burning more fat. But I have an hourglass figure now. My dear friend Jen Winkler, Coach Jen Winkler, got up next and was also provided the opportunity to give her testimonial. So we had so much fun cramming so much information into 15 minutes each. And she gave her story about the fact that she all but cured her epilepsy by using a ketogenic diet. And that, she went into the struggles that she went through, not only with weight, but also having this condition that she was diagnosed with, I believe at age 11. And the fact she's down to just like a fraction of the medications that she had been put on when she was a child up into her teens through her 20s, until then she finally decided to take control of her life again, take it back in her hands, and heal herself from the inside out. Sheila D'Agostino was our after lunch speaker, and she actually talked about the neuroproductive and behavioral benefits of exogenous ketones. Now, you'll hear from people that will say, and I have as well said, ketones, like exogenous ketones, just so you've got ketones present in your bloodstream, are completely unnecessary. Your body will produce ketones as it burns fat and blah, 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 yada, 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 yada. You know the deal. What she was talking about specifically was for neurologic and behavioral disorders, that exogenous ketones have shown such promise for people who have bipolar disorder, who have massive depression and anxiety, who have other neurological deficits, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia, things like that, that those ketones are going to benefit with regards to the brain and brain health and brain function in those who are having issues. She talked to me individually about the practice that she has with hockey teams where they leave, professional hockey teams and football teams and other sorts of sports programs where CTE is a very real concern for not only adults, but teens who are getting head injuries and ending up with concussions. And she has prescribed a protocol to them to help to not necessarily eliminate, but significantly reduce the chances of CTE from traumatic head injuries. Maria Emmerich, who is one of my favorite people and my husband's absolute favorite person in the whole keto space, is Maria Emmerich. And her topic was on protein versus fat, which is better for weight loss. And there's always a debate about what is better, what's going to work better for, this, what's going to work better for that. And the gist of it is high protein is going to work for some. High fat is going to work for others. And most of us are like this in the middle. So it's not a battle between protein versus fat. What's better, this or that? It's finding what works best for you and trying different things to see what it is that is going to end up working best for you. The next 3 days were actually port days. Like we had boom, 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 port, port, port. So the first port that we stopped at was St. Croix. And that was the place I was the most excited about visiting because we had an excursion scheduled to swim with sea turtles or snorkel with sea turtles. And when I saw that on the list of excursions, I nearly jumped out of my skin because what? Swimming, snorkeling with sea turtles? Yes, please. And the day could not have started more perfectly because as we are coming into port, there are sea turtles swimming all over down below at the port. So I saw probably 10 sea turtles just right there as we were bringing the ship in. And it was absolutely extraordinary. I was so excited for our swimming with them afterwards. So we get off the ship. And unfortunately, there was a significant delay by customs allowing us off the ship. So we actually got off an hour later than what we were supposed to, which could have wreaked significant havoc with regards to our excursions. But let me tell you how amazing and professional the company was that was handling our snorkeling excursions. They went above and beyond. We showed up as this huge group and he's like, where did you all just come from? And we're like, well, they just let us off the ship. And he had just sent another group out for their excursion that was the hour behind us. So instead of, just being about it, they called back to their shop. They had somebody bring all of the equipment that they had, the snorkels, the fins, everything, to make sure everybody was able to get into the water and enjoy this experience. There were some nasty individuals that were on our ship, fortunately not part of our group, who were just, guys, come on, eat some bacon and cheer up, and screaming at these individuals. And I made sure to go up to them and just profusely thank them for their professionalism, number one, and for the behavior of the other people that were scheduled to do the excursion, because it was no control over these folks that were getting us set up to snorkel with sea turtles. So we get out there and they let us go out pretty freaking far. We were basically almost back to where the ship was from the beach that we had taken started our excursion at. And we saw a sea turtle. Oh, there's a sea turtle. And then I started to come back a little bit more just because I was like, okay, let's see what's over here in this area, because there was a huge clump of people where the sea turtle was. And I didn't need to get kicked in the face, which happens, and unfortunately did happen. I don't know how many times I grabbed people's feet because they were about to kick me in the face for a second time. So we go back out, we're going a little bit into a different spot, a little bit more remote of a location. And my husband had the GoPro that we had. We were fiddling around with that thing so much. It was brand new to us. So yeah, mistakes were made. I'm just going to say that because I had the most amazing encounter with a sea turtle. And this sucker was probably like this, like he was big. And he's down below. I see him. I don't tell everybody that he's there except for my husband and the mom and son that was actually nearby us, because they were very kind. So I call them over to see it. They all look down. I have the camera and I am filming and I am ready to start crying because here is this majestic sea creature right there below me. And then he starts to swim up to get a breath, and he is less than 3 feet from me, and I am following him with the camera, and I'm just like, I'm so geeked out, I can't even stand it. He comes up, he gets a breath, he just kind of chills on the top for a minute, and then goes back down to start having his breakfast, and it was magical. and I didn't get it on film. I thought I was recording. The camera shuts down. It's got a screensaver on it. I had no idea I was not recording that entire time. So I can't show all of you, but it is in my brain and it is burned and etched in there, and I will never forget about it because it was unbelievable. So the rest of the day was just kind of meandering around St. Croix. It's not as touristy as of a place as I thought it was. It was mostly a place for beaches to go out and swim, to do those types of excursions. I know people did bike rides and things like that. So we kind of wandered around the town, did some shopping, got some fun souvenirs for our kids, and headed back to the ship. Well, it's probably a good thing that we did that because I managed to fry myself in St. Croix. Now, keep in mind, I have not burned in 2 years. 2 years, I have not gotten a sunburn. I will pink up, and then by the next day, I am good to go. Not this time. There's a reason I am wearing a long sleeve shirt, guys. I am peeling so bad on my arms. Like my shoulders, not so much, but my arms all the way down almost to my hands. I am peeling. And my husband made this little quip to me about, oh, you didn't need sunscreen. I didn't think you needed sunscreen. You don't burn. And I'm like, okay, normally I don't. But then I thought about it. I did not have a base tan because our pool did not warm up until I should say warm up to my liking, until we were back home. And so now it's absolutely swimming temps, but I wasn't doing it beforehand. And I told him though, even if I had put on the sunscreen, I would have sweated it all off before we even got in the water. And then it's one of those things where, yes, I use zinc oxide, but I didn't want to use a sunscreen that could potentially cause any sort of harm to the surrounding area underwater. So stupid me, I went snorkeling for an hour without sunscreen on, and I paid the price for it the rest of the cruise. The next stop the following day was in St. Thomas, and again, still part of the US Virgin Islands, and we had chosen an excursion. I let my husband choose the rest of them because all I wanted to do was swim with sea turtles, honestly. So he chose the fort tour and a rum tasting along with shopping. So we take the little taxi to the fort and did a tour of the fort there, which was really cool. But again, St. Thomas was extremely hot. It was extremely humid. I was melting. But lots of history about St. Thomas and the settlers that came in initially and the battles that were fought. How different the layout is, and I don't want to say the ecosystem, but just the fact that where the castle was, it used to be surrounded by water and now it's surrounded by major streets. After that, we did go to a jewelry store that actually had a rum room attached to it because they learned to, pivot during the pandemic when things went crazy and just kind of added things on that they thought might help increase their revenue, and it worked. So I'm not a huge fan of rum. There were some I would sniff it before doing anything, and I said nope, and I set it right back down. So I actually only tried 3 of the 5, and one of them, it was a sip. Like, you couldn't even call it me tasting it because it was just disgusting. It tasted like freaking jet fuel. It was awful. But again, I am not a huge drinker anymore. So things like that are just kind of like, okay. But it was something my husband wanted to do. So we went and did it. And then we ended up bringing home 2 bottles of rum. Go figure. San Juan, Puerto Rico was our next stop. And this ended up being my absolute favorite day because it was just beautiful there. It was hotter and more humid there than any place that we visited the entire week, but it was absolutely my favorite port. So we didn't schedule anything through the cruise line. We just decided to do our own thing, explore what we wanted to explore, do what we wanted to do. But in looking at things to do in San Juan, Puerto Rico, I came across a listing for hiring a photographer to take you around Old San Juan and do a photo shoot. That was one of the best ideas ever. So if you are going to San Juan, Puerto Rico, Viator.com, they'll have the options for you for various tours and things like that, but the photographer is on there as well. 100% worth it, because not only did we get these amazing pictures on a tropical island to come home with to remember this trip, but we basically had our own private tour guide, because we walked probably about 3 miles during our photo shoot. And he's showing us the different locations of things. He's giving us history of San Juan, Puerto Rico. He led us around, and we got a 2-for-1 essentially with this photo shoot. So if you're going there, I would absolutely highly 100% recommend hiring this gentleman to do a 30-minute shoot in all of the places in San Juan that you see these magical photos from. The umbrellas were not up. Apparently that is a Christmas thing, which their Christmas season goes from November 1st through the 3rd week of January. And that's when the umbrellas are up. So we missed it, but it's okay. We recreated our own little umbrella photo, but we have such an amazing souvenir in San Juan of these photos that were taken. So after we finished our photo shoot, we headed over to the Basilica. And there was actually a group of about 10 of us who stayed after we looked around the Basilica, read things, that stayed for Mass, because they do a daily Mass at 12:15. And it was all in Spanish, which was pretty cool. But, you go to church long enough, you know what's going to happen when. So you know when to respond, you know to stand, you know when to sit, you know when to kneel. And it was a very unique experience. And I'm so happy we got the opportunity to do that. After Mass, we all kind of headed out to go find food. It was Corey and I, and then Jen Winkler and her son and husband and her mom. We found a restaurant. The 2 things my husband wanted to do in Puerto Rico was have a pina colada, because that's where they were created, and also try mofongo. And mofongo is green plantains, chicharrones, like ground up pork rinds, and garlic and other seasonings, all kind of smushed together and put in almost like a little bowl shape. And then they throw whatever meat that you choose on top of it, and you enjoy that. So my husband got his mofongo, he got his pina colada. I took 1 drink of it and was like, whoa, that's sweet and that's really strong. And I did enjoy a white sangria while we were there. And I ended up getting something similar to the mofongo, but instead of using the plantains, I did a giant avocado, which was literally bigger than my hand. It was the biggest avocado ever. It was a mutant. And so we tried that. It was good. I don't think the mofongo is like the end all be all, but my husband thought it was absolutely spectacular, and that's okay. So we got to try Puerto Rican food. He got to have his pina colada in Puerto Rico. And then we just kind of meandered and shopped and just chill. It was a chill day on an absolutely beautiful island. And yes, was my favorite stop on the entire cruise. The following day was our 3rd and final day of seminars. And Dr. Tro, please don't let me butcher his last name, Kalasian, is who kicked us off for that. I'm sorry if I messed it up, Dr. Tro. I truly apologize. And his topic was understanding food addiction. Again, just kind of piggybacking off of what Jessica had initially talked about. And, that basically understanding the strongholds that you have or that certain things have over you are why you continuously fail at dieting, and that you have to let go of whatever it is that is just keeping you pinned down and dependent upon food to be able to cope with situations. Once you do that, it's smooth sailing, guys. Our next speaker was Dr. Lucia Aronica, who she's probably my favorite one to listen to just because of her incredible Italian accent. She was so much fun just listening to her speak, and she definitely kept us engaged. But her topic was, what if a keto diet could transform the way you eat forever? And she also provided studies that showed people who ate a low carb diet, people who ate a low fat diet, people who ate a Mediterranean diet, and the results over a span of, I can't remember how long it was, but how, number one, health markers looked, how much fat they lost, how much muscle they potentially lost, and the overall weight that they lost. And seeing her slides and hearing the information that she provided was very insightful. So that's one you definitely want to listen to when we've got him up on our YouTube channel. Jonathan Shane, who I probably spent the most amount of time with on the entire cruise because he reminds me so much of my son. It was hilarious. He was up next, and he went over women's health, and the subject of his talk was women deserve better. Amen to that, sir. Because so many times in so many avenues, whether it's practitioners, whether it's health coaches, whether it's fitness coaches, whatever, men and women are very different. We are very different creatures. We are not to be treated the same. We are not to be diagnosed the same. We are not to be trained the same. We are different. And Jonathan went so in depth. You wouldn't think this conversation or this subject would come from a man, but he covered it so well that, guess what, ladies? Sometimes you do need carbs in your life. If you are a cycling female, you need different things at different times of your cycle. It is not one size fits all. It is not this or that. You need to experiment with you. How is your body responding to certain things? How are your hormones? When was the last time have you ever had your hormone panels checked? So many things come into play with regards to females, and he covered so much about it. Two Crazy Ketos, our spectacular MCs, were the next presenters, and I loved their topic. It was spreading the message about keto without making an ass out of yourself. There was lots of ass dropped in the first, 5 minutes of their presentation, which just was super fun. But their overall message was, when you are wanting to share the message, when you are encouraging people to try this lifestyle or just to get out of the standard American diet and try something different to help themselves, to improve their health, to improve their mobility, you cannot be a stubborn ass about it. You can't keep hounding and hounding and hounding and hounding. The best description they gave was, be a lighthouse, not a foghorn. Let whoever is looking for help, realizing they need help and realizing they are ready for help, seek you out. Ships look for the lighthouse. The lighthouse doesn't look for the ship. Foghorns are a warning. They're not encouraging. The lighthouse is welcoming you in. So be a lighthouse. The final speaker, and I thought the perfect way to round out the low carb cruise, was somebody who has been quintessential in my journey, in my recovery, in my healing, and it continues to be inspiring to me, and that is Dr. Ben Bikman. You can see right there, I've got his book, Why We Get Sick, and it made me realize, how much insulin resistance contributes to so many ailments that millions and millions of people are dealing with at this point. And so his discussion was on shrinking fat cells, energy versus insulin. And again, he is one of those individuals who is able to dumb the science down enough for people, you and me, regular average Joes, to really and truly understand. So, and I had him on my bus on our way down to the port, and let me just tell you, I was hardcore fangirling over this man. And I only managed to get one photo with him because he was so busy with his beautiful family, and we were so busy doing other things as well. And I was getting the opportunity to just talk to him. I didn't sit there and obsess over, I have to get a photo, until it was the last night and I'm like, oh crap, I have to get this photo. That evening was our Roaring 20s farewell party, because we had one more port day after that, and then the next day we were getting off the ship. So we did a 20s theme farewell party this time. The DJ, I freaking loved him. He played such great music, and people were out on the dance floor all freaking night long. Let me tell you what a beautiful sight it was to see so many women and men out there dancing, man, shaking their groove things. Because this is what it's about. They were active. They were happy. They were out there doing the damn thing. And that is what this overall message is all about. They were living their best lives on that dance floor and bringing people in to have fun with them. We had a freaking conga line that ended up almost the entire length of the lounge by the end of it. That is what truly matters. Not what size you are, not what the scale says. What can you do? The final port was Royal Caribbean's island Coco Cay in the Bahamas, and we just had a day of rest. The low carb cruise committee decided to spend the day together. Debbie got us a spot in Cocoa Beach Club over there, kind of inside the island. It was peaceful. It was serene. It was beautiful. It was the perfect day. They're not kidding when they say perfect day at Coco Cay, because it's exactly what we all needed to unwind from a very active week, but a very fulfilling week. And we were able to just kind of go over what we witnessed and what people had said to us, and just enjoy each other, enjoy the beach. We spent a good amount of time with Dr. Tro and his wife, Rosette, and Dr. Lenskys and his wife, Linnell, and just floating in the water. Some people snorkeled. There were sharks and barracudas and fish and jellyfish. I mean, it was beautiful. And then we had this incredible meal that was served to us that was low carb, as we had hoped. You know, we can make the decisions of what we're going to eat. Just because it's on the plate doesn't mean we have to eat it, right? And we had the best day. Then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my husband and I decided to head back to the ship and started packing, because the next day we were going to be back in Florida and it was going to be time to head home. That is my least favorite day, is when it's time to go home. However, we still had one more excursion to do through Royal. My husband is an aircraft mechanic, so he is a nerd for all things air and space, okay? When we did Antithetic last year, we went and, spent a couple days in DC first so that he could do the Air and Space Museums through the Smithsonian. He geeked out at all of that. And so when we saw that there was a Kennedy space excursion after we disembarked the ship that then took us to the airport to catch our flights, of course we had to do it. We just happened to be going there also on the day that the manned shuttle was supposed to take off. Well, we did all the stuff Kennedy Space Center. We wandered, we explored, we shopped some more, and toured and just did everything we could do until the launch was supposed to take place at 12:15. We get over there, we find our spot, we're waiting, there's people gathering. It was a madhouse at Kennedy Space Center that day. We got down to 3 minutes and 40 seconds, and what happened? If you were watching, they scrubbed it, because they had the same exact alarm go off. So that was kind of a disappointment, but my husband got to check Kennedy Space Center off of his bucket list. He has seen that. We did, however, see a SpaceX launch the night before the cruise. So that was super cool. Here in Arizona, we see things being flying from Cape Pendleton, from Pendleton, and it's just a weird looking thing. Honestly, it just kind of looks like this, flying through the sky. So to see a fireball actually going up into the air and, out of the atmosphere was pretty amazing. So that's my recap of our 2024 low carb cruise. I know there was a lot of rambling, but I wanted to get a little bit more into the topics that the speakers went over as opposed to what we did while we were on the cruise, because everybody's going to want to do different things at different ports, at different locations. Everybody has different interests. Next year we have Alaska. I can't wait. We are 366 days from Alaska right now. So it is June 13th of 2025 through June 20th of 2025. We leave from Seattle. It is a round trip. There are so many stops. Don't ask me which ones we are going to, because I do not remember anything but Juneau and Sitka. Those stand out. And some glaciers. There we go. So if you want additional information on next year's cruise, please log on to www.lowcarbcruise.com. You can submit information or an information request. You can register for the 2025 cruise. We have not disclosed our full speaker list yet because we are still finalizing them. But this is a lineup you are not going to want to miss. As I told one of the speakers, one of the best parts of this is the fact that you are literally locked on a ship with these experts for a full week. What other seminar can you go to that you're going to run into these people passing to go to dinner, or you're going to sit at the same table as them, or sit at a table adjacent to them? Nowhere. So check out lowcarbcruise.com, get your information, and get registered for 2025. Bye.